Welcome to another edition of On This Day on the Grueling Truth Sports Network, and today we're going to talk about December 23rd, 1972, the Immaculate Reception. I'm your host for On This Day, Mike Goodpaster, and the 1972 season had already been something of a miracle in Pittsburgh. Before it had even begun, Terry Bradshaw, quarterback for the Steelers, had told his father that there were 4 teams on the schedule that were surefire playoff teams. And if the Steelers could beat just 2 of them, they would gain the confidence they could play with anybody. Well, they beat all 4 and went 11-3 to make the playoffs for just the second time in their 39-year history. Long before their 6 Lombardi trophies and legendary stability, the Steelers were lovable, bumbling losers. And even a great coach like Chuck Noll needed 4 seasons to turn around a franchise that had 13 head coaches before he was plucked from Don Shula's Baltimore Colts staff in 1969. But in 1972, everything clicked for the Steelers. The steel curtain dropped on opponents. They were devastating with one of the greatest defenses in NFL history. Now, Franco Harris rushed for more than 1,000 yards and was the Rookie of the Year. And Franco's Italian army sprang to life. Now, remember, we talked about 13 coaches in their first 39 years. Since Chuck Noll was hired, the Steelers have not fired a coach, and then they've had a total of, 3 head coaches in that time? Now, at this time, the Steelers had always found a way to lose. And Franco Harris says, I remember telling myself, Franco, this will probably be the last play of the year. It was a good year, so play it through to the end. That's what I told myself going into the huddle. Now, Art Rooney, the white-haired, cigar-chewing Steelers founder, left his box, got into the elevator, and was headed down to the locker room to greet and console his team as he'd done so many times before, because it looked like the Steelers were dead in the water in that playoff game against the Raiders. Now, the Steelers had mustered just 2 field goals on the day, and all of Pittsburgh had been conditioned to expect the worst. In Mount Holy, New Jersey, Harris's family was watching on TV. His mom, Gina, was from Italy and did not understand football, so she was in the kitchen not paying attention to the game. Suddenly, Gina sensed something was wrong. She went to her old record stack, took out her Italian album, and on Saturday, 2 days before Christmas, she played some music, Ave Maria. Now, Bradshaw remembers as he broke the huddle, he told his teammates, we've got to get this. Raiders safety Jack Tatum was thinking something else. He'd already broken up Bradshaw's first and third down pass attempts on that drive, and he wanted one more. With the Raiders in man-to-man coverage for this fateful play, the big question is, why are you in man-to-man coverage here, John Madden? But his assignment was tight end John McMccain. And Harris's responsibility was even simpler. Stay in the backfield and block. Now, you can see the last minute of this call and Curt Gowdy calling the game. And Curt Gowdy says this is the last chance for the Steelers. Bradshaw took the snap and the protection broke down almost immediately. He scrambles to his right, ducking under the Raiders' Tony Klein, backpedaling all the way back to the Steelers' 28-yard line. Bradshaw would later say, I got flushed out to the right, cut off from getting to the outside. I looked downfield, saw a black jersey, and just fired it. Frenchie Fuqua, another Steelers running back, came out of the backfield thinking he was going to be the star. Everything was working perfect, Fuqua said. I got open, and as I took my eyes from the center to the ball, I caught a quick glance at Tatum coming at me. I said, oh no, I need Bradshaw to throw this to my inside shoulder. He threw the ball to a point. I'm running full speed. I see Tatum coming full speed. What happened next is anybody's guess, even to this day. And Harris said, while he was scrambling, I said to myself, be an outlet pass just in case. He threw the ball downfield, and automatically in my head came Joe Paterno's voice of go to the ball. That's what he always told us in college at Penn State, but in college, I never listened. Frenchie Fuqua said, I'm thinking one thing is for sure. If I don't catch it, nobody will catch it. And if he hits me early, it's pass interference so we get another shot. I could hear him breathing. I'm glad I didn't slow down because he would have surely gotten the interception. The ball arrived at the Raiders' 35-yard line at the same moment as Tatum and Fuqua, and it is there that the legend kind of takes off. Fuqua leaps, reached for the ball, but Tatum, who had been coming hard at him from at least 10 yards away, crushed him with his right shoulder, sending Fuqua backwards at least 3 yards. He looked up and briefly caught a glimpse of Tatum standing over him, smiling. The ball ricocheted backward, and the central mystery of the play, of NFL history really, is whether the ball hit Tatum or Fuqua to send it flying 7 yards. If it had hit Fuqua, the play by the rules of the day should have been over. If it hit Tatum, the play was live. One more question existed, though. Did the ball graze the frozen field before Harris hunched over, grasped it with his fingertips, and took off down the left sideline? I remember nothing Harris said. My mind is completely blank. The only thing I remember is stiff-arming Jimmy Warren right at the end before going into the end zone. In my mind, I'm thinking, I'm getting into the end zone. Then it was just absolute bedlam. On the ground, Bradshaw heard the roar of the crowd and thought to himself, "You're a hero to millions. You put that sucker right there on the money. I'm going to be on the cover of a Wheaties box. I may make 10 or 15 grand this offseason." Bradshaw didn't find out until he got to the sideline where the Steelers were embracing and the Raiders were completely dumbfounded and furious that it was Harris, possibly aided by the split-second delay before Raiders defenders gave chase, who had taken the carom and galloped to glory. Apparent glory, according to the Raiders. There were 3 infractions on that play, explains George Atkinson, the great former Raiders safety who saw the play develop in front of him. "I saw the ball hit Fuqua, and I saw the tip of the ball touch the ground. 2 offensive players couldn't touch the ball. Then Franco picked it up off the ground. That was the second infraction, and then Phil Villapiano for the Raiders got clipped on that play. Villapiano went to say, the tight end dove right at the back of my legs. To this day, I think about it. If I had fallen, maybe I would have gotten a call. If he hadn't hit me, I would have caught Franco." The back judge had raised his arms to signal touchdown, but the other members of the crew did not. They huddled. John Madden ran onto the field and was quickly told by officials to get his fat butt off the field because they didn't know what had happened. Minutes passed and confusion descended. Referee Fred Swagren went to the Steelers' sideline and asked for a telephone. He was taken into a baseball dugout at then new Three Rivers Stadium, which the Steelers shared with the Pittsburgh Pirates. A call was placed to the press box where conveniently the NFL supervisor of officials, Art McNally, was observing the game. Legend has it that the phone was answered either by Steelers PR director Joe Gordon or by Dan Rooney, Art Rooney's son and the man who had hired Noel. McNally told the New York Daily News in 1997 he had an opinion from the very beginning that the ball had hit Tatum. He took one look at an instant replay on a monitor, but while he watched the officials huddling, he wondered if they were talking about the possibility of the touchdown not counting. Swagren got on the phone and told McNally that 2 of the officials said the ball had hit Tatum, and 2 others thought it had hit both Tatum and Fuqua. McNally told the Daily News, "So I said, everything is fine, go ahead and go." 10 minutes after the play, Swagren came out of the dugout, went to midfield, raised his arms to signal a touchdown. The Steelers exulted. The Raiders were dumbfounded. Now, Villapiano said, "This guy comes out and puts his hands up, and it was a effing what?" Madden, during a broadcast on the 30th anniversary play, called it a big lump of coal. He is not so much angry with the call, but in the way that it was made. My whole point all these years was if you knew it was a touchdown, then call it a touchdown. If you didn't know it was a touchdown, then how the hell did you call it? On the way into the locker room, the Steelers were in fact greeted by Art Rooney and heard the roar when Harris scored while in the elevator. He had, as Harris thinks about it now, gotten on the elevator a loser and gotten off a winner. The fortunes of his franchise swinging in the time it took to go down a few floors. Fuqua had a question as he shook the owner's hand. "Mr. Rooney, should I tell them what happened?" Fuqua asked. There were reporters all around the locker room. He had his big cigar in his mouth, and he looked at Frenchie and said, "Frenchie, keep it to yourself." The number of reporters asking, "Did you touch it?" Fuqua said, "I love publicity. If I answer it, what will be in the papers tomorrow?" I said to myself. "We won the game, and that's the most important thing." "I'll never tell," Fuqua said. And to this day, it is still probably the most controversial play in NFL history. And when you watch the film, it's hard to tell anything but Phil Villapiano was clipped. But that is on this day, December 23rd, 1972, where the Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Oakland Raiders 13-7 to win, I believe, their first playoff game in their franchise's history. So that's On This Day. And remember, you can hear On This Day every day on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. And it'll usually be posted somewhere between 10 and 11 o'clock at thegruelingtruth.com. You can follow us Twitter at Grueling Truth. You can hear all of our podcasts wherever you find podcasts. So, for me, Mike Goodpaster, you've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.